Hello, welcome. If you have any questions at all, I was trying to put some music on. Please let me know. This is kind of an open forum that I do where you get access to a therapist for 30 minutes and I will answer any question you have about codependency, relationships, communication style, all sorts of different things. So, meaning like, what do you do if? So, if you have any questions, I'm here for you. You just have to ask or let me know how you're doing today. Right on. I had a great thing going. Maha says with a girl, but she cut off talks because she's in love with her ex. Oh, she cut off talking to you because she's in love with her ex. Everything went great for 9 to 10 dates, no problem whatsoever. Then she cut everything off. You know, when somebody dates and has a really great time with another person, and then does this like whoops, but I have this relationship with this other person I haven't really concluded, or I haven't, I think that's a red flag. So even though everything went great for 9 to 10 dates, there's something that didn't go well that was her responsibility. And having kind of an emotional, like what we would call emotional cheating, or emotional dishonesty, where, she's trying to move on with her life and that's great, but she really needs to make a decision about why she's moving on and what she wants. And it sounded like she wanted to be with you, but she wasn't yet really clear on what kind of bondage or bond she had with that ex. And clearly that karma, that lesson, that trauma wasn't over. She was over multiple times a week, got intimate, and her excuse was that she was hurting me. Yeah, well, and I think that that's one of those things. This is a great example, because there's so many factors. But when people recognize that they are not being honest anymore, they do something where they honestly can't be there or want to be there. Thank you for the roses. Is that they end up saying a lot about, I'm going to take it on myself. It's like, I'm bad for you. I know I'm hurting you. I know you could do better. You'll be happier without me. All of those are, again, actually emotional. I mean, here we are with this emotionally dishonest things women and men, but I hear a lot of women say to people as a way to kind of like, oh, put it on me as I'm the one hurting you and walking out. But, or they're going to put it on themselves so you don't get upset. That's another thing too. It's kind of like an imposed self-loathing. So you can't do it to them. So that's another aspect of this. And, and I'm wondering for you, like too, Mahai, like as far as, is that nothing bad happened? Well, except for, and we were still really and that's another thing, that's what I was going to say. I was reading one of these comments. That's what I was going to say, was that you're in the first 9 to 10 dates, you can have a lot of endorphins, you can have a lot of excitement, you can do a lot of cool stuff together. It's still so brand new. So that's not necessarily like, it's like a snapshot into kind of, if you have good chemistry, just that part. And so that's something that I think is a little it's unfair, because there's a lot that can happen there, but there's a lot that doesn't actually come to fruition. I do know a lot of people that by that time, it becomes just serious enough that somebody bails or somebody has an issue. If it actually lasts longer than that, you might have something And definitely like this. Nobody's like double tap the screen, even though I got all those roses from Mile High. Double tap the screen if you like it. I'm getting my mat to stand, and maybe you guys don't like the thank you for the follow too. And you know, you might, I am trying my hardest to help, because I have worked with couples quite a bit, and I find that men are just as codependent as women. It's just they show it in different ways. So it's not so, clearly stated, but there are a lot of tendencies within relationships. And I was going to do one, and I'm going to do one tomorrow, on codependent love, which, has a lot of idealization, a lot of projection, a lot of hoping that this is the one, and kind of getting trapped in that, and not being aware that you're getting pulled into something that's dangerous for you. And there's a lot of red flags around. Kyle says, am I on Reddit? I mean, definitely have gone on that app and read stuff on Reddit. And Troy with the exotic animal license, but I always wanted a cougar. Really interesting. So you guys, if you have, it's definitely moving down. No, I don't think so. That is a scar on the door where the pull-up bar goes. But thanks for taking care of me. Oh, shoot. I didn't do this. Do you have, if you guys have any questions, if not, I will wait for someone to say something that makes any sense at all. I had Mile High on. He had something really cool to say. There we go. And I'm totally waiting for questions from people that are interested in relationship issues. Oh, good deal. Do I end all communication with her or leave the window open to talk? I think that one of the things that you'll become, and this is actually an issue of codependency, is that when a person hasn't closed, taken the responsibility to close or have closure with a past partner, and they start calling you still, you'll get pulled into being the friend that they confine in or helping them out. But it's especially if you were intimate with her, there's too much going on there, as far as being able to just okay, I can be your friend and just be completely platonic and not have any feelings about what we're talking about. I noticed that when a woman does this, again, she ends up not being honest with him. She needs that friend, she needs that consoling, but she needs to take responsibility for the relationship that she continues to go back to. And she wouldn't have met you if she was happy there, but why does she keep going back to it? So she's got to figure that out with either, within herself, or figure out within, some sort of whatever self-help kind of situation. I don't necessarily think that what she's going through requires, lots of therapy, but whatever. I'm not sure what her trauma is. I'm not sure why she is doing that, but you becoming that person that she gets to call and go like, yeah, this is what's going on with me, and you care about her. No, I feel like that's not safe for you. And that's what codependency doesn't actually protect. We don't think about ourselves. We think about how we can give to others and take care of others. And that's the mentality that gets us in trouble, even though it's really kind. It's not kind to us, because in the end, we suffer. We suffer. Would you rather spend 5 years in a coma or 10 years, or 5 years in prison or 10 years in a coma? Definitely 5 years in prison. How about neither? Things. You guys are making a lot of sense tonight. Okay, here we go. My high again. Thank you. You're the only one making sense. I think 7 to 10 days of no talking would be good. And if she misses me, she'll reach out. Well, yeah, make sure the conversation, well, that's an interesting way of putting it. Make sure the conversation is about you. That's different. But back and forth, you got to know what you want. And that's that my last post said, what do you want in a partner? What do you expect in a relationship? And because you're going to want to be in something, not have to be in something with somebody. And before you get in a relationship, you should know that big time. Robert, you can guess that. Under 100. Yeah. I mean, but greetings from Ice Wallow. Where is that? That's very interesting. But that's good that you're here and talking about it and trying to, grieve. It's hard. But talking to somebody that did that, why aren't you also, are you upset a little bit with this kind of behavior? Are you feeling like this is the kind of where you have to really ask yourself a question and introspect? It's like, this person hurt me. Why do I want to talk to them? And giving yourself at least some space to have feelings that are not longing. And also taking this time to wonder, did I miss something? Did I miss the indication that this was going to happen? That she was going to do this? Was there any sort of clue? Yeah. I think something's off. You're too not, well, and so, too, I think there's a great book you probably should read. I think it's about the good guy. No More Mr. Nice Guy. I also, why I stopped being the nice guy. In a lot of ways, that indicates that there were things going on that she wasn't being honest about. If it goes from completely on, and look at you, cooking her dinner, taking her out, pleasure, all sorts of things. What'd she give you? So the complete cutoff, I don't want to be, too, that is sad, but you're having depressed feelings instead of angry ones. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but this idea of being kind of, you're giving a lot. Where's your, again, and I'm trying to help you understand codependency. But this is the thing, is that codependent people have such a tendency to give that they don't necessarily, they take for granted how valuable that is. And that all the other things you're giving her emotionally and you're taking care of her, those have value. And it doesn't look like the behavior that she had or just leaving, it showed that was valuable to her. So it has to be valuable to you first. What you give to a relationship, especially a codependent person, is incredibly valuable. You probably do have an excess of emotional intelligence and even understanding, and can give a lot, but you can want a lot too. But that doesn't necessarily mean, it means mostly closeness. Doesn't mean that the person actually has to give back. This is where it becomes really disjointed. So I hope, and you're saying more, and I'm kind of giving you a little bit more education on the whole thing. So, I mean, as far as where you're coming from, though, I do get what you're saying. It's just when you talk to a therapist, you're not going to get a direct validation. What you're going to get is an understanding, but then also a deeper insight into what it is that you're experiencing in this situation internally and why. Because it doesn't really, again, she isn't somebody that we're necessarily considering as much as we're considering you. But you're considering her a lot. And we have some people, you can please like this, double tap the screen, so we can send out to more people. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And you know what? I have I really am interested in men's emotional health. I don't think that they get any education, and they're incredibly emotionally adept human beings. I really thank you for all the likes now. Thank you. I really like working with men because they're a nice balance. It's not too much. Women, they know that I love them, but it's just, there's this wonderful aspect of men being a nice balance, because when they start to understand themselves emotionally, they can kind of take responsibility for it. So instead of act like the victim, like I'm trying to hurt them. A sarcastic bad boy, but this was different and opened my heart too soon. Yeah, well, and now you know what's in there. It's very valuable. It's very, very valuable, and I want you to stay, the sarcastic bad boy part too is a little, maybe is that's a little telling that there's some defensiveness, as far as, or, like a shell around what it is that this part of you is, which is vulnerable, open, and giving. So, but I have an emotional warrior community. If anybody here likes what they're listening to, you can definitely check out my bio. It's a membership. It's not launching till January 31st, but you can sign up early. And then I work with people so I can actually hear you and see you on coaching calls and do master classes and stuff like that, all on codependency and relationships. And I think it's a place for, again, I don't think everybody needs one-on-one psychotherapy. I've been a therapist for a long time, and I ended up saying the same thing to mostly everybody that I worked with. And so I'm going to be saying the same thing now, but obviously, to a larger group so people can learn together. Oh, I made a mistake there. So, okay, so let me look here. It looks like, I don't know if you're still on, Brett. I'm not sure if I should start with my girlfriend. I like her, but I definitely repress my feelings. What about her or you? Why are you repressing your feelings? And are they negative feelings? You're not sure if you should stay. And then, kind of how I did the post on codependent men, staying with somebody that's hurtful to them because they can repress their feelings. That's what they did all along. And thank you for the likes. And try to make her happy because of my trauma with my mom. Oh, okay. So you obviously, yeah, sorry, I didn't read the second part. Depending on the level of feeling, I think that this is the thing, is that would it be possible, this is the question that you have to ask yourself, is this person this way and I was fine with it and they want to stay that way? Or do you want to actually work on this with this person and they also want to work on themselves? So it would have to be a give and take. So I'm asking whether or not. they're flexible. Flexible with, and thank you for the follow chapter. And definitely have to figure out whether they have insight into their behavior, or if you've been honest enough to let them know how you feel and want to do the work that it requires. I mean, relationships after the honeymoon phase, Mile High too, is like, they're work. You gotta really want to be in them, right? Thank you for the roses. Is that you have to want to be in a relationship, because it takes negotiating, it takes empathy, it takes forgiveness, it takes time. So you definitely want to do this. You have to want to, because that's the point of it, and that's why it's so rewarding, right? But if you're just in it and it feels like it's suffocating you, or if it's hurting you and you can't get out of, all of those things, then what you're doing, if they don't want help and they don't want to get help, is really just, tick, 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 wasting your life. And I feel very passionate about that. Like, I really do not think people should be in relationships that they're unhappy in. And they need to figure out why they're in them. And even that goes for, the complication of divorce and all of those kinds of things. But, children learn a lot from dysfunctional parents that stay together. They learn a lot from single parents that try to figure it out. So, the children aren't benefiting from the staying together kind of dynamic. And I don't see you gave Mile High a reference. That's awesome. But Brett, you might be gone. Oh, yeah. I worked with Mile High. I worked with older couples like that. Okay, Brett's still there. I think that this is why I say exactly why I say get out if it's a waste, because or if there's a gridlock, because relationships either help propel your personal growth, or they actually, because you share space in a relationship, you're not an independent mind. You do have independence, but if you have too much independence, that's what you're talking about, is like, okay, well, I have my friend. Basically, they become platonic relationships, not romantic relationships. But people, what I find is in relationships like that, are no longer growing as people, because that person is just comfortable in making do with me, and I'm comfortable making do with them. Where's the frustration? So that's why I said relationships that are good are actually positive levels of frustration and work. And because you love that person, you want to grow and become better. So there's a kind of a cool encouragement there to do the hard work. Staying together for the kids being the excuse is saying, I don't want to do the work that I'd have to do in order to get a divorce. Because it does take looking in the mirror and saying, I don't want this, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to figure it out, and do all the hard shit that comes with a divorce and all of this. So, but actually, a lot of times when people do that, they show up as better parents, better people, better parents. A lot of times. So if you want to be in it for the kids, don't stay in a miserable relationship. That's the kind of strange logic. I call it emotional reasoning. We say things to people acting like we're sacrificing, so they don't look at the fact that we're bailing basically on taking responsibility for our lives, our happiness, and the people that we're here, if we have children, to take care of. My parents' dysfunction taught me not to ever get married. Well, actually, I just had an interchange with somebody on one of my posts about, like, don't blame the parents. This comes from a relationship. I don't know what I want for dinner because I don't want to make my husband mad. I'm like, sounds like, don't blame the parents. I'm like, wait a second. Our mind is formed, right? So you're telling me right now that, your parents' relationship literally impacted how you think about yourself, relationships, and everything else. I think that's 100% how it works. But then, is that where we go with it? Do we stop there? Do we say their relationship is the generalization? That's the end all. And I disagree. I think that we have to look at their situation as something that is of a learning experience and go, I don't want that. And maybe I don't believe in the institution of marriage. You can go even that far. But to use that experience to hold you back from having something that really is part of the human experience, that's when I start to say, wait a second, are we using these past experiences to not grow, to stay comfortable? Because again, growth and learning is a process of frustration, just enough frustration. Getting out of our comfort zone. You'll be back soon. Nice. Okay, well, I got 5 minutes. Nicole, I think my friend is a toxic relationship. She's not allowed to look or answer her phone. Oh, or else he gets mad and jealous. Here we go. Thank you for the likes. Absolutely like the post or double tap the screen if you like that what you're hearing. But Nicole, I that's not only a toxic relationship, but that's also a possessive one. I talk about that a little bit with, I think in some ways, hey James, is that I talk about that in, and I worked with somebody and I'm trying to figure out what story to tell, but whatever excuse why she's with him and whatever excuse she continues to make to be with that person, even though they're possessive and even though they are intruding on her space and toxic, that's a real sign of like a level of toxic codependency. If you are really that bound to your to a person that they can treat you however they want and you still don't take initiative to leave, like you don't have a boundary or a standard or say no, you can't go there, this is like, we're not the same person, you don't get to control me, I'm different from you, respect me, all those things. So I would say, in this case, she might know that she's in a situation that's serious for her emotionally. But so I would encourage her to start to look to resources as far as educating herself to get more information on why she stays in it. Not just trying to scare her about him, but really get her to see more into herself too. A lot of times it takes the person acknowledging why they are there and what's going on in them, that all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, I woke up and I'm out. Looking at him, you can always make the excuse, oh, he's just having a bad day, he's doing this, oh, he got his trauma, he's this, that. I'm like, oh, okay, great. All right, but you're talking about it because you don't feel good with it. So don't give me that. That's why it's so important to, be able to call people on their stuff, right? So good. I mean, and I'm glad that resonated. James, what would you say about parents who are emotionally divorced but pretend to the kids everything is fine, and moreover, who gaslight the kids into believing they are bad or crazy when they draw attention to it? Well, thank you for the likes, James. Is that I think that those people need to understand the repercussion for making up reality for children, because that's a very narcissistic thing to do. in a narcissistic family, there is what we call like the family delusion. And nobody talks about what's going on inside those four walls, that house. And they can go out to church and they can go here and they can look normal and they can pretend that at home it's total chaos. It's gross, it's abusive, it's whatever, alcoholism, it's all sorts of crap, right? Yeah, that is gonna lead to two major things for the children. Children are gonna have a hard time relating to the world. They're always gonna wanna come back home because that's the only place that they feel actually that world exists anymore. Like out in the world itself, if they're confused because they tried to distinguish reality and the parent said no. And the parent is molding the mind. Not blame, but they're molding the mind. So if I take these two parents and how they molded the mind, I put that out in the world, it's like square peg, round hole, and the kid is having a lot of issue in assimilating and becoming part of society and becoming part of the world. A lot of times I find that these families, if they really are restrictive in how the children see the world, see relationships, see what's going on, it's not just like making them believe in Santa forever. It's worse. So there's a lot of consequence for something that difficult. And again, I've found, and sometimes one kid, but I will say this, like, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I do want to say that maybe one or two kids, if they're very resilient, can like really pull out of that situation and then go and quickly find, or not quickly, but or find a spouse or a partner or get in their own family and move away. Yes, getting punished for seeing things as they are is something a narcissistic family will do. A narcissistic mother will get very mad at you for calling her, if she's an alcoholic, let's say, very mad at you for calling her a drunk. Or calling her and saying, hey, why are you drinking so much? Or what's going on with the situation? Anybody having to be responsible for anything in this kind of family is prime for totally creating a real dysfunction in the mind of the child. The dysfunction is more of a dissociation in the mind of the child between what's real and what's not. And they're very scared. The child will be very frightened. Eventually, it will become unbearable to try to confront it at some point. The parent will terrify them. Cultish families, yeah. I've managed to get out of it, but I'm struggling with the effects. Yes, you know what? And I was going to say, your situation, I know what I'm talking about because I've been there, but it depends. This family seems a little bit more strict with it. Sometimes we can see the hypocrisy. It matters how smart the children are, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to have to deal with the disillusionment effect, which is just, it's startling, it's striking for a child to be raised in a situation like that and try to be in the world. It's where a lot of chaos occurs. Tony Stark and Stephen Rogers. I'm not going to say like something about butt sex. It is subtle. Well, yeah, maybe they're trying to keep it together, but the end result for the kiddo is going to be pretty detrimental. I mean, even now, don't get me wrong. I think it's even now, but what has to happen is they have to acknowledge what they're doing, and this is what's so terrible about narcissism, is that it refuses to, it's such a wall. It refuses to see So really, we can just help the children when it comes to that. And that's why I think even codependency is so cool, because so many codependent parents are like, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to raise my kids to be this way. I want help. And that's why I love working in this field. But narcissism is a toughie. It's just really difficult. So I'm going to go for this evening, but I appreciate all of your questions, roses, likes, and everything. And if you're interested in working with me further, Emotional Warrior Community, there's a link. I do coaching calls. I do master classes. I work with you. I think more specifically than here. I think this is kind of a cool intro into my work, but we dive much deeper into topics and you learn a lot about it yourself. So absolutely. So hopefully you'll meet me over there, and I will see you back here soon. If not, and I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much, and good night.